Welcome to 9wax TV. The 997 GTS, well, it's a modern classic. It sits right in the sweet spot for Porsche 911 enthusiasts. Today, we're testing two stunning examples head to head. We've got the PDK and the Halo manual. Look, this is a real treat today. The 997 GTS is special for so many reasons. The first one is, well, the fact that these cars are 997.2s. For many, that is the sweet spot for modern day 911s because you get a great deal of modernity alongside that traditional 911 layout. So, sweet spot of the 911 generations. Then we consider the GTS package. Elevates the driving theatre is the best way to put it over other Carrera derivatives like the C2 and the C2S. The third reason these cars are so special, the original GTS is so special, is the numbers game. The 997 cars are eminently rarer than the 991 and 992 generations that followed. And that's chiefly really because these cars were considered a run-out special to the 997 generation. So lots to love about these cars, and that's why these cars have never really dipped below their list price. 75,750 quid when they came out in 2010, and 14 years later, that's where prices for them still start, really. The GTS in the 997 generation was available in Coupe or Cabriolet, four-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, manual and PDK. And it's the rear-wheel drive coupes that the purists tend to go for, and that's what we've got behind us here with the aqua blue and GT silver car. But as I said, there is a difference. The GT silver car has the optional PDK semi-automatic gearbox, more popular at the time, so there are more of these on planet Earth. This aqua blue beauty though has the 6-speed manual. Super rare, super sought after. We're going to split hairs with both of them today and find out just what they like to drive, and if the reputation that the 997 carries as a real sweet spot and highly sought after 911 does ring true in reality. Let's do some driving.
Before we get stuck into a driving appraisal of the 997 GTS, let's have a recap as to its spec and why it's special. The top level is this all-new 911 model, as it was when revealed in September 2010, was the King Carrera, bridging the gap between the Carrera S and GT3 of the time. Regardless of two or four-wheel drive and cab or coupe, it featured a wide body, additional power from the power kit, and a desirable spec including centre-locking RS Spider wheels, sport design bumpers, a sport design steering wheel, plus unique black accents all over, and extensive use of Alcantara on touch points throughout the cabin. What follows is my thoughts on both 911s, interwoven with some driving highlights of a memorable day at the wheel of two special examples supplied by Paragon Porsche. Let's start with the PDK car.
Right, sports exhaust, PASM off, manual gears, and go. Oh dear, I just love the 997 GTS, and I have to say, with PDK, it's a really able ally to the overall GTS package. Everything that is written and has been written and what people think about 997 GTS is absolutely true. It's just the 997 platform is brilliant. It drives like a traditional 911, and by that I mean you can pretty much steer it from the gas pedal. The 991 generation with the longer wheelbase, they do drive slightly different, whereas this is just drives character-wise is exactly the same as the classics. It really is such a beautiful blend of modernity. You don't feel like you're driving an old car in here at all. So as we know, the GTS just elevates the driving theatre that's already on offer from a brilliant platform in the 997.2 Carrera range. It's a great place to sit. It feels special with this swathes of leather and Alcantara. Looks wise, I mean, it's a real look at these cars. The stance with the wider body and wider track, by the way, and the revised styling with the sport design, front bumper, the side skirts, and the black accents. It's a great looking car, but like it's still small and still feels small in comparison to stuff that came after. And something that I think has possibly been overlooked until now is the ride quality. The 997 generation, we're on 19-inch wheels here just rides so well. It's supple, and I don't think enough is made of that really in comparison to cars that followed. So as I said, the 997 GTS has got so much going for it. The power kit I think is a work of art. On paper it's only 23 horsepower difference, but as ever, and to be honest I'm going to do a video on this entirely, the power kit is far more than the sum of the parts. It's the way the power is delivered that's different from non-power kit cars. 23 more horsepower, it's got more torque, it's delivered 2,000 RPM lower at 4,200, but it's the way the power comes in that's so special. I am honestly loving it. It feels definitely more sports car than GT. Loads of pep to it as well. The only thing I'd like, bear in mind I've got sport exhaust on here, is I'd like a little bit more sound. The DFI engine is quite quiet. It wasn't until the 991 generation that followed that I think that naturally aspirated flat six soundtrack was fully unlocked for the GTS. The steering is just perfectly weighted. Hydraulically assisted steering for the 991 Porsche switched to electrically assisted. And although that system is good, it's just not the same. The feel and the weightiness you get of these hydraulically assisted is unbeatable in my opinion. As for the transmission, well look, PDK is a brilliant gearbox, we know that. You may be thinking, well, it's 14 years old now, technology moves quickly, does it feel quite old within a modern day context? Well, the answer is no, not really. PDK is such a brilliant gearbox, double clutch, next gear pre-selected. It still feels quick and engaging by today's standards. The only thing that really shows its age is on the paddles, like the amount of travel you get from the paddle. With the 992s, for example, it almost feels like PlayStation S. It's almost like a click when you change gear. With this, there is a little bit more travel to the paddle. That's been tightened over time. That's the only thing that gives away its age. Otherwise, it's a brilliant gearbox. It works really well with the GTS concept, helps you unlock the full 408 horsepower. Absolutely not to be dismissed. However, if you really are a stickler for driving purity and you want to take that concept further, there is, of course, the manual car ahead. And I think it's about time we explored what that is all about. Properly, don't I? Ta-da! Behold the 6-speed manual gearbox. This angle is not going to stay like this for the whole of the video. It's just so that we can fit in the stick shift, because this thing here is what makes this particular car so special. I said earlier in the video, the 997 GTS is a fairly rare beast, within the context of modern 911 build numbers, okay? So I've got UK numbers, and this is not numbers that I've just found elsewhere. These are numbers that I have researched myself, so I'd like to think they're accurate. So UK 997 GTS cars, okay, 711 of them. And of that 711, manual rear-wheel drive like this one, 95 of them. That is super, super rare. I'll run through the rest of the numbers for context again. So of the 711, 357 of them are rear-wheel drive PDK, so like the silver car. We've then got 241 four-wheel drive PDK GTSs. We've got just 18 four-wheel drive manual GTSs, which is a bit of a bizarre setup, come to think of it. And then 95 of, as I said, the purest specification as far as I'm concerned, rear drive manual coupe. So those numbers help explain the values, really. We've got two exquisite examples here, probably two of the best examples on the market, no doubt, from Paragon. You're looking at about a 15% premium for stick shift, and hopefully, in running through the numbers as I have done there, kind of underlines why. And so that explains the numbers, but I mean, this is a unicorn really in terms of 911, so I want to fire this up, get out on the road and find out just what it's like to drive. Oh my god, this thing, first of all I need to doff my hat to the person that spec'd this from factory. It ticks all the boxes, as I mentioned, for 997 purity, rear-wheel drive manual coupe, non-sunroof. This is a joyous place to be, make no bones about it. And the other thing that is immediately noticeable is this car feels so different to that PDK car. Like, that is a fantastic car ahead, the PDK GTS. It really is. I love driving that, but this just unlocks a whole new dimension of 997 brilliance. And actually, it's, I think, this car that really resonates with the early press release when it said the GTS is instilled as the premier Carrera, and it really is. It puts it right at the top of the tree, has everything that PDK car has in terms of its chassis layout and balance, but with extra engagement from the shift. And the shift is brilliant. In the Premier League of outstanding manual shifters in 911s, I think the 2016 911R is the elite choice, but the 997 GTS shift is a real beauty. Relatively short throw, super lightweight to it, but not superficially so, like the 992 manual. It's a real delight, and each shift is just a really nice, precise moving of mechanical parts. It's easy to throw the shifter around as well. There's no notchiness to it. It really is like butter. And as I said, it just unlocks, I think, a little bit more of the character in being able to cog swap yourself with a third pedal. Just allows you to unlock a little bit more of that GTS character. The power kit, by the way, is brilliant. Exactly what you'd expect from a power kit, and I have experience of this as a 40th anniversary owner, is razor sharp throttle response, particularly in sport mode, a real punchy mid-range, and then you're just singing by the top echelons of the tacho. Interesting thing to note, people talk about how the GTS and the 997 Sport Classic are similar, same powertrain, body and everything else. Well, it's the same shift, but this feels nicer actually than the 997 Sport Classic, because the Sport Classic gets this like alloy Porsche exclusive shift that's, I think, a little bit too big in your hand actually. This is a little bit more slender, and I think plays into the feel of the actual shift itself. So I much prefer the shift in the GTS over the Sport Classic, but that's a massive tangent. For me, driving these cars, there's real lineage with the earliest 911s that is definitely lost by the time you get to the later 991 and 992 generations. Of that, there is no doubt. The other thing I'd like to mention is, because, you know, with like the rarity of this car in terms of numbers, that's reflected in the values, and it sort of crosses over with GT3. So I'm expecting a comment to say, well, you can have a GT3 for that sort of money. But the cars are very different in how they drive. And a great case in point of that is the clutch. So in a GT3, obviously, because those cars are 6-speed manual as well, like this, but the clutch on a GT3 is a lot heavier. It's got much less assistance to it. And if the majority of your driving is road-based, that will get tedious quickly. This, meanwhile, has all of the beautiful shifting character of those GT3s, but the clutch itself is just lighter and a lot more amenable. It's far easier to get on with. And again, if the majority of your driving is fast road driving, I'd argue that this is where it's at. So that is it. That is our test of these two exquisite cars. If I'm honest, I'm gutted the day is over. It's been such a joy to drive these cars. Fantastic examples of the genre, and really show different expressions of the GTS platform, despite the fact they're both rear drive coupes. I guess I'd encourage you to try both, try as many as you can, and find what works for you. I wasn't sure before. I thought it was 997 evangelists just doing some fluffing of their own cars, but I do agree after the drive today that with the 997 at the end of the 997 generation, that really was a line in the sand for the traditional 911 layout before, you know, the cars got longer, wider, better balanced, etc. And it takes more with those subsequent cars to really peel back the layers to reveal that traditional 911 DNA. With this, it's laid bare, and in GTS form, it's perhaps not only the final version of that, but arguably the best as well, outside of the GT lineup. That's about it for today then. That's the brilliance of the 997 GTS. Thanks to Paragon for supplying two outstanding cars, as always, for us to test here on 9works TV. You can check both of them out, of course, on the 9works marketplace. If you already own one of these, you're already well ahead of the game as far as I'm concerned, because I'm adamant that the future of these cars is going to be even rosier than its past. And with that in mind, we'll sign off from another episode of 9works TV. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you again soon.